Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. Luis Ortiz, Efe Ajagba and Daniel Dubois are the big winners in the latest ranking updates from the WBA and WBO respectively. So we'll start in the WBA and see here on screen. So this is the top 15. Daniel Dubois vaults all the way to number 1. He is the current interim champion. He picked up that strap after beating Bogdan Dinu, who drops out of the rankings altogether. At the time of that they fought, Dinu was ranked number 4 and Daniel Dubois number 10. And Dubois was coming off a loss heading into that so-called title fight. But in the order of WBA champions, Daniel Dubois a bit further down the totem pole. It goes the super champion, regular champion, and apparently gold champion is above Daniel Dubois, who is the interim champion, and as a result of being the interim champion, is ranked at number 1 in the top 15. So as a result of that, Alexander Usyk and Luis Ortiz and Andy Ruiz Jr. all drop down one place. Usyk is set to take on Anthony Joshua at some point, the fight still to be officially confirmed. Luis Ortiz, now this is the question because he's also mentioned in the WBO rankings, so something is definitely coming. So Ortiz last month vaulted up 5 places in these rankings to number 2. He drops a spot this month because of Daniel Dubois, but something is coming for Ortiz. And what that is for the former 2-time defeated titleist and former sparring partner of Jack Johnson, it's unclear, but Ortiz seemingly something is coming. And when you look at the PBC stable, it can only be one of a few options because they're going to keep it in-house. It's going to be hopefully a meaningful fight. No more Alexander Flores's, that sort of stuff, you know, those opponents. He's only had 45 seconds worth of action, that was that Flores fight, since losing to Deontay Wilder a second time in 2019. Hopefully it ends up being an Andy Ruiz Jr. fight, and Ruiz is obviously at number 4 here. That would be a very good fight. Another option is Charles Martin. He is also in these rankings, not too far behind Luis Ortiz, and Martin doesn't have a fight scheduled. Pretty much the only guy in the PBC stable who either hasn't just fought or doesn't have a fight scheduled. So there is Dominic Breazeale as well, but other guys are all sort of tied up at the moment. So who is Charles Martin going to face? So at number 6 here, we have Michael Hunter. He's still to face Mike Wilson, who's further down in these rankings. That fight was meant to take place in June on the Teofimo Lopez-George Kambosos undercard, but it was postponed until August. So we'll see if that fight goes ahead. There's some talk about the date may move. We'll have to see. Ajit Kabayel, he's just recently fought, beat Kevin Johnson. Bit of a joke of a fight that he should be having after. I mean, people forget Ajit Kabayel's been a pro for 10 years now. He had his sort of career at that point defining win against Derek Chisora in 2017, has not kicked on. And to face Johnson and also to be touched up by Johnson in that fight, to be walked down by Johnson, who was walking through Kabayel's punches in that fight, I wasn't impressed. At number 8, you have Adam Kovnatsky. So he is going to be facing Robert Helenius in that rematch. That's on the Wilder Fury 3 undercard. Michael Polite-Coffey, he has a fight coming up with Gerald Washington. And you see Washington just below him. So Washington enters the rankings here, previously not in the WBA top 15. So clearly, because of this fight, he enters here. Number 9 versus number 10. Michael Polite-Coffey, in my view, should win that one, but it's his biggest test to date, and Gerald Washington can crack. Efe Ajagba, so he enters here into these rankings at number 11. Wasn't here last month. He's got a fight coming up. That's against Frank Sanchez-Foray. Oh, and who's below him? Frank Sanchez-Foray. So Sanchez, Efe Ajagba, that's the co-main event for Wilder Fury 3. Zan Kosobutsky, so he holds the WBA international title. Hopefully he's back in the ring soon because he's been far too inactive in this period of the pandemic. Some guys have, you know, obviously things slowed down for a while and it's sort of normal sort of resumption of action. But Kosobutsky and a few others like Arslanbek Makhmudov, they've really suffered in this time. These guys who are these sort of end of prospect phase coming into fringe contender phase. Just can't get the work that they really need right now. As I mentioned, Mike Wilson soon to face Michael Hunter. He'll get pretty much decapitated and he'll be out of the rankings. And then you have Leonero Pero, who holds a minor WBA title, which he picked up recently, hence joining the top 15. So all in all, relatively stable to some extent, just sort of shuffling some of the deck chairs there. Worth noting, Ali Erendemiresian, who had been at number 12 last month, drops out altogether, possibly because of inactivity. Deontay Wilder, he comes out of these rankings because obviously he's facing Tyson Fury for the WBC title, so they've taken him out of the top 15 here. But Daniel Dubois, number 1, goes there because of the interim champion status he picked up against Bogdan Dinu, who never should have been ranked. No one can convince me otherwise. Anyway, moving on to the WBO rankings. So a few interesting things here as well. And what I'll do is I'll go straight down to number 7. See here, Luis Ortiz. So he was not ranked last month. And also worth noting, Efe Ajagba at number 10. He also was not ranked last month. Ajagba, as I just mentioned, got a fight scheduled against Frank Sanchez Foray. Luis Ortiz, nothing though. So a month ago for the WBA, he went from number 7 to number 2. He's at number 3 in the WBA as of today. And here, number 7, out of nowhere. And for a guy that hasn't fought since 2019, has only had 45 seconds worth of action, it's curious, isn't it? So I do hope that that means an Andy Ruiz Jr. fight is coming, because Ruiz and Ortiz, pretty highly ranked across the WBO and WBA. I mean, another option, as I mentioned, could be Charles Martin, but maybe not, because Martin, if you look at this list, not here. But he was a month ago. He was number 10, but dropped altogether. But at the top here, Alexander Usyk, he's the WBO mandatory, so this is the position he's going to be, taking for this title shot versus Anthony Joshua. You've got Joe Joyce, number 2, soon to face Carlos Takam in a couple of weeks. Joseph Parker, who's currently off contract. He's not a matchroom fighter at the moment, as far as I'm aware. His contract ended. Talk of a Derek Chisora rematch in a few months. I'm kind of a bit ho-hum on that after that first fight. I don't know if I really want to see it, but I mean, they're going to force it down our throats like a lot of fights that we get these days and tell us that we need to pay for it on pay-per-view. Andy Ruiz Jr., he's at 1 spot, and that's also because Deontay Wilder from these WBO rankings has been dropped because he is going for that WBC title. Frank Sanchez Foray comes up 1 as a result. Michael Hunter up 1 as well. Luis Ortiz, as I mentioned, into the rankings in at 7, so not sort of sliding in at 13 or something, or 14, something like that, into the top half of the rankings. Zhang Zhilei, who was also meant to be fighting on that Triller undercard of Teofimo Lopez, he's sort of waiting and watching, was meant to face Daniel Martz. We'll have to see if that's going to still be the opponent for him whenever it is rescheduled to. They're talking August. Yevgeny Romanov, it's interesting because Romanov just had a fight at Bridgerweight. But was that recognized by the WBO, I should say, as being at heavyweight? Because Bridgerweight is at heavyweight for the other 3 sanctioning bodies. Haven't really had any sort of, decision by the sanctioning bodies about how they're going to respond to guys who are fighting over 200 pounds, but contesting titles, minor titles, as in this case for Romanov, who fought Dmitry Kudryashov. That was a minor Bridgerweight title. What's going to happen with these guys? Anyway, Efe Ajagba, as I mentioned, inserted into the rankings here. Dempsey McKean, he's up 1 spot. Number 12, Ajit Cabello, up 1 as well. Filip Hrgovic, he's down 2 places this month. Ali Erendemiresian holds firm at 14, and Tony Yoka holds firm at number 15. So a bit of movement. So Luis Ortiz, Efe Ajagba inserted into the WBO rankings. Ajagba inserted into the WBA rankings, and Ortiz holding a similarly high position there as well. Daniel Dubois climbs to number 1 in the WBA. What do you make of it all? Drop a comment loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe. Follow me on Twitter. Boxing_squared. I'm out.